pivotal moment where she stopped shaking. She finally accepted, and we did an hour and a half.
Yep.
Good. Hour and a half. Did she try to get off at all?
Once.
Once?
And I tapped her and she got right back on and then continued.
Okay. You said the number was 45?
45, I was at 60.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. And then she held it?
Yep.
Okay. Was that the last time she did it, or have you done it more since then?
We didn't do it yesterday because I
did it once.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I had that remarkably stupid failure that I had yesterday.
Okay.
So,
what was that?
So my office is too small for her bed, so I have a futon in there. I tried to make her place on that, and she was really confused. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So trying to get her on the object was difficult.
Right. So getting her on the object was difficult, and she was having a hard time figuring it out. And I was just like, I'm not going to keep putting you through this.
Okay.
Because I messed up. So.
So how did you go about teaching her futon place?
So like since my office is so small, there's only one avenue to like walk up to it. So I walking her up to it, and I gave her the command, and then tapped her until she jumped up on it. And she would like try to walk around it to jump up, but then wouldn't be able to jump up because of stuff in the way. So she was having trouble getting up on it.
Okay. Was there other stuff
on? No, it was just the futon by itself. It was empty. But with the lead, she was getting confused. So I tried to do it without the lead, and that didn't work at all. She just ran away.
When you were doing with the leash, how much slack did she have?
Not a lot.
You had it short.
Yeah, but there's no path. So like I had to like lean over her to try and guide her in. That's where she was getting confused. Yeah.
Even if you do sideways? Like if you do sideways like this, is it still too tight?
That might have worked. I just wasn't figuring it out.
Okay. Whenever I come across stuff like that, if the dog's having a hard time with it, I always use it to my advantage. Working them through it and stuff. I mean, if it's because of space and everything, then of course, try to find a means of getting her able to do it. It's just another challenge.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry so much like, oh, it's my fuck up, so don't worry about it type of thing. It happens, like we make mistakes all the time when we're training.
I figure I just need to rearrange things so that like there is space for her to do that, but the other dog's bed is down there. And yesterday it was just me with both dogs, and she, if he's not in the same room with her when I'm closing him out, he freaks out and starts barking. She gets nervous. So keeping her up to the task is just, for me, I was overwhelmed. So I was like, I'm giving up today.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I don't think so. We didn't go to Home Decor Petco. We didn't try that yet. I think this is going to be the week that we're going to do that. I really wanted to focus on place with her and get her just comfortable with that. Yeah. No, this week was good.
Okay. So yeah, keep pushing place.
Yeah.
And anytime, like even like, if you find, if you don't see it, then it doesn't matter. But like, you did place with one object, and then you said it took a bit, but then now she's starting to finally kind of accept the command of place. Is that, let's say you have a different object, and you teach that as place, and you notice like she has a problem with that. You have another thing, right? So then we go, oh, okay, cool. Like placing on different objects is also a challenge to her. I always just target things as much as possible to get the dog over it more quickly. Or you can place her on a towel and she's completely fine with it. Once they're over the concept of it, they could be completely fine. But if you ever notice anything like that, I would just use that to my advantage. So that's why I was asking about the futon thing. Because for some dogs, like doing place on an elevated surface can be difficult for them. So then they go, cool, here's another thing that we're gonna expose you to just kind of get you over discomfort. Okay, anything else?
No, I mean, this week what's nice is we do have someone coming this week, we have someone coming to measure our blinds, so we can definitely see how she is with that.
Okay, how are you planning on approaching it?
Because I want to leave her downstairs and place her there with you, probably on the futon, because they have to measure, because we have 2 floors and where the windows are is on the main floors, and he's downstairs in his office.
Mm-hmm.
So we may have to focus on getting her to place on the futon.
Right. Well, since she's not working from home anymore. She's,
I'm unemployed. So.
Yeah. we can practice placing her in my office with, once I move the stuff around to give her more of a path, so that she can figure it out, and I can figure it out.
Is downstairs like the first floor, or is downstairs?
It's
a basement.
It's a basement.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they're gonna, so she would be placed downstairs, and then the person's gonna measure the blinds gonna be upstairs.
Upstairs.
The main
Yeah.
floor and then the second floor.
Gotcha. How is she with that from previous experience?
So the last time we had someone over was the air conditioner guy. We had the collar on the entire time. We had her in a room,
Mm-hmm.
and she, with the door closed, so that way, 'cause just in case, and she barked once, and then we tapped her, and then she kind of just chilled the rest of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the goal for us is to get her to place and stay there even though someone's walking around upstairs.
Sure.
That isn't us.
Okay, so that's the goal for the first one. Okay, sure. Is there any, like let's say she did break place and like try to bolt out of there, is there any buffers?
Yeah. We have baby gates and stuff that we have on the stairs so that she can't get up over them. She can't jump over.
Okay, so the furthest she can get is to the top of the stairs?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so let's say she does break place and starts charging up the stairs. How do you plan on correcting that?
So she will be on lead the whole time. So, and I can wrap her around my desk to make sure that she can't actually get up there. If she
Mhm.
gets out of her collar for whatever reason, then I'll still have the remote to remote her as she's running.
Okay.
And she'll be wearing her muzzle the whole time.
Okay. Is your desk sturdy enough that it'll, if she did like, it's gonna catch her?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What would your number be at?
I think the highest we ever did, we got up to you was at 90. So I'd
For the on the lap stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the on the lap stuff.
Okay.
So I was thinking that that's probably where we would keep her for anything where we would be introducing someone into the house,
Okay.
right off the bat.
Okay. How about for you? What do you think the number would be?
I would think I would think 60. Only because because we do have the barriers in place to kind of remove, like have that person's gonna be upstairs, and it seems like her number when she's in a place with someone else that she doesn't necessarily want to be around, it's 45 to 60 on the high side.
Okay.
So I would say 60.
Yeah. I was thinking like 65. Because almost every time we've done something, with the exception of getting it comfortably, has been around like in that 60s range.
Yeah.
And I think even you had noticed previously on the walks or something, with
Yeah.
activity, 60, 65 is your number.
Yeah.
right?
Oh, that's what I want. I remember. I was at 65, and I did go. I took her on a walk, and the dog with the invisible leash
Mhm.
was out, and I stayed on the sidewalk. The dog stayed, and she was wonderful. Like we walked the entire time, and she stayed by my side, didn't lunge, didn't bark, didn't engage with the dog, and the dog's like it's just yelping at her, and she was like to my side at the entire time. So
Good.
yeah, I was like, whew, that was great.
Excellent. And you said you had your number up at the 60?
It was 60, yeah. Because that's where I think that's what I've been doing with her on walks now, is just keeping it at 60
Mm-hmm.
and just doing the walk with 60.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds about right. So like, whenever we do obedience stuff, like the next time we teach something new obedience-wise, we'll always go down lower. And then we work our way up because we're shaping something, right? She's not meant to sit, she's not meant to down, she's not meant to place or anything like that. It's not in her genetic code. It's just something that humans have developed and we have a means of teaching it to the dog can learn the concepts, right? But it would be unfair for me to say sit and remote a dog at 90 because the dog has no concept of what sit is, right? Behavior is a bit different. I mean, day one, like if when we're working with her and we bumped it up, I can't remember how high we went when I did the touch stuff. Like we just went there.
Yeah.
You know, there was no like we're gonna cap it at like 40 and we're not gonna go beyond that because it's simply just don't do that, right? It's just a consequence for behavior. But we still do the work. We still work our way up. I just don't have the limitations like I would with like obedience type stuff. When we go into this situation, the reason why 60 would be correct is you're thinking, well, when she's really intense or for whatever, you know, when her state of mind is really locked up, we're at that 90 range.
Yeah.
Right? That was because I was pushing her to confront the fear of moving into my space. So I had to override that, right?
Gotcha.
But everything else had been around that 60s range for the most part, like me touching her and everything. Remember when she was here and all that stuff? I was all about that 60s range. So when we're doing consequence to correct things, it's high enough to deter the behavior, but low enough that it gives the brain time to think in between the hits. Okay, so like continuous. I have a client right now, I'm training her dog, and her parents trained their dog with an e-collar as well. And she asked, hey, like, my parents, when they tell their dog to do something, it's continuous. And then when the dog does it, they stop. And I go, yeah, that is also a style of training. I go, however, it's not my style of training because when you put the pressure on, there's no space in between to let the brain think, what do I need to do to stop this? It's just pressure on, right? And most people tend to do pressure on, continuous, higher number. And she's like, oh yeah, like that's how the dog was trained. And I go, yeah, like, and I was like, but the dog is constantly on edge. And I go, because the dog does not know or is not given the opportunity to think in between the hits. So when we tap, every time we tap and we give that space, she's given the opportunity of making a decision. So last week when we revisited pulling her towards me, there was towards the end like a time where you tap like twice.
Yeah.
And she just started moving towards me. So we laid off the tap because we're giving the brain time to think, what can I do to avoid the next hit? And we didn't give another tap until she locked up again. Then we tapped, she went, okay, and she pushed forward, she continued the rest of the way, right? So 60 is high enough from what we've seen so far that it's very effective. It's harsh enough that she's thinking that sucks, but not so harsh that she's thinking I don't know what to do. Like she's too frantic, she's too panicked, right? So not that you wouldn't go to 90, but I would start at 60, 65. Because let's say you did come in at 90 and she takes off and you start tapping her at 90, it's so harsh that it sends her into more of a frenzied state, okay?
Gotcha.
As opposed to 60, 70, 80, 90. And let's say that happens, and you're like, hey Jesse, you were wrong. It was 90, right? I go, okay, I was wrong, right? But then now we've learned though, in that context, yes, you're better off going at a higher number.
Right.
Does that make sense? But 60's range has been pretty consistent. It's helped with the reactivity. It helped in that context here of settling her down. It's done a big chunk of stuff. And the only reason we had to go to 90 was because I was trying to force her on top of my lap, which for her is an extreme. Okay? So I would do 60, 65. And the next thing I would do is actually I wouldn't tether her here. Okay? The reason why I wouldn't is because you have a fairly big buffer, right? You're gonna have her muzzle, she's gonna have her leash on, all that stays the same. And you have your gate up, right? Is you have your remote ready, you're already at 65, and dude rings the doorbell, whatever, bark, 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 bark. If she doesn't take off, you would tap there, okay, and see if it just shuts her down on the place. I think we did that before,
Yeah.
right? Very much the same. Let's say she hears footsteps upstairs and she just gets up and starts going. You just start running the tap button, right? Nip, tap, 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 tap. and you start to pursue her and just follow her as you're tapping. And then, let's say she does make it up to the baby gate. As you're tapping and going to approach her, what I would like to see her start to deflect off of the baby gate. She herself is naturally disengaging from the situation. You keep tapping, gently pick up your leash. Don't say anything. Keep tapping on your way down, okay? Until you get back to your office. Keep tapping, you don't repeat. Send her back to the futon. Then I sit down and go back to what I was doing, okay? So you're correcting the entire time she breaks the position.
Gotcha.
Okay? And I'm only doing this because you have the baby gate. If you didn't have the baby gate, I would say absolutely tether her to your desk, right?
Okay.
But the reason why I would suggest that one is it allows you to correct her the entire time she's broken from the position.
Okay.
So if it's 2 minutes of pure remote the entire time at 65, she's like, holy crap, this really sucks. That's going to be a very big deterrent from the next time, right? So then instead of the next time you have another opportunity, like, yes, I'm just like, well, we're going to fix this, and we're going to have her own place downstairs and all that stuff. And then she perks up when you tap her, and she like lays back down and settles, and they walk around. She's like, nope, not going to do that again, because it took me 2 minutes last time to figure that out. Okay, so when I first started e-collar training, when dogs would break position, I would grab them and bring them back and tap them at the end to go. And what I noticed was that dogs would always break the position. They didn't care about getting off of place. So then I was like, well, how do I make this a deterrent? So I was like, I'm gonna just start remoting the moment I see them break off a place, and I'm gonna continue to remote until they go back on the place. And then once I did that, all of a sudden dogs stopped breaking the position. Because they're thinking, well, if I get off a place, the entire time I'm off of that boundary, remote is going off. So it makes the experience suck, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay? So I'd suggest that just to take advantage of the situation. As long as you don't think she'll barrel through or whatever. Questions?
No?
Okay.
Nope, that makes sense.
Yep. And ideally, you would go step by step, like, and I know he's coming to do work, so you can only do so much. But realistically speaking, let's say I came over, I ring the doorbell, she's going ballistic. You would take your time to either reposition her, replace her, shut her down to get her as passive as possible. Then you would approach the door, and then you'd go to open it. If she blew up again, you'd close the door, remote her, correct her, send her back, go back to the door, try again. So, because you have two situations, you have your dog and you have your guest, right? Obviously this person's doing work, so we can only do so much. But if it's a friend, or me, or somebody that you can say like, hey, we're training Lucy, do you mind just giving us a couple of minutes, right? And once they've rung the doorbell, you would have them not ringing again, because that's a trigger, okay? You get her under control first. Once you feel like she's under control, then you go to address the guest situation. That's how you would go about that in a situation where you could. Because most people tend to brush through things, right? Because they're like, oh, I want my guest waiting outside, and I have my dog going crazy. Right? And what happens is, like, let's say one person is holding back Lucy, trying to control her, she's going ballistic, and the other person is going to open up the door because like, sorry guys, didn't mean to make you wait for a bit. You're technically rewarding that behavior. Because you're allowing the guest in as she's in that frantic state, as opposed to when she's passive. Okay? And then also, it's escalating the situation more, because it's just action, 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 as opposed to action, response. You settle her, and then once you settle, I go, okay, now I'm gonna go over here and address this. Okay? Because that's the most common thing that people do. And in the beginning, it's more work. But after a few reps, you would back her off, calm her down, and then your guest would just come in. Like it'd be real smooth.
Calm.
Okay, yeah.
Gotcha.
Any other questions?
No.
Let me go get my long nation. I have it in here.
I was wrong.
Sorry. I'm gonna relish in this moment.
Huh? You did kind of cut me off guard because I was like, I was just planning on closing the doors with her and the guy over and just dealing with her that way.
No, I would like to get her to.
Yeah, I understand. Where are you going? Yeah.
Make sure I did it right this time. 'Cause,
Actually,
whew, that
got
was.
up to the car today and Jen thought she had put the lead on and I went and grabbed it and just went, and she was untethered and I was like, oh boy, I'm really happy that we trained her to heel because
Yeah.
she was not moving.
I was in a consultation this morning, and the guy's dog flipped out the collar and almost took off.
Oh,
Because the guy caught the dog. All right, what's your number currently at?
Right now it's at 45.
Okay. Why don't you skip with tap here? Tap. 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 Go ahead and bump it. Let's go to the 65. Tip. 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 So what I'm doing here is not helping as much, putting more on her brain. Before, like I was pulling like the first time, especially the second time, I was still pulling the less. And here, what I'm really just doing is restricting where she can go that way, and getting her for the most part to come in herself just through remote. Okay, so if I'm always putting pressure on her physically, I'm doing part of the work, which is fine in the beginning to give her direction, but ultimately the brain needs to decide, like, okay, just go with it, okay? I'm not going to play. Good, let's just set for a second. Good. Right. Good. Tap. Tap. Tip. 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 She's recognizing that when I say the word cap, you notice that?
Yeah.
She's responding to that, yeah. Yeah, Jim. I'll go to 35. That car was there we go. That's okay. Cooper. And do you have up there? There's one right there actually.
Okay.
On the yeah. tip, 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 tip. There, good. Yeah. Tip, tip. Tip, tip. Good. Yep. Yep, yep. Yep. Here, just getting her comfortable with moving with me. So everything had always been stationary, her coming to me. Well, first it was me coming to her, then it was her coming to me, and then it was just getting her to me. Right? So then since now I'm moving, it changes the energy. So then just trying to get her to just walk with me, not so much of a deal, but just like we're moving around each other. Yep. 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 A little more percent.
Yeah.
So just getting her to move with me.
Yeah.
Now this, what I'm doing here, is not an alpha roll. You know, me trying to get her to submit. This is for her most like kind of vulnerable. And she's exposed to like this is okay, right? This breathing here can sound like we're cutting off airflow. It's like hyperventilating.
Yeah.
Right? She's got to get all that stuff out. So then here, just kind of getting her comfortable. You see it right here.
Yeah.
See all that tension? Yeah. So when I was putting her into this position, I wasn't using a ton of force. She gave it to me pretty easy, but guiding her into it, and the moment she gives me the relaxation, I take off any tension. So I don't want to pin her down, because that communicates distrust, right? So it's kind of like, as a kid, like getting an argument with your friend or whatever, and you're like, well, let me go and I'll do it, or whatever, right? Or like, you go first, It's that distrust of like, are you gonna do it if I do it?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same, but I have to give the trust first, right? Because I already know she has obviously issues with fear and trust in itself. Is this was why it's very common when people say like, hey Jesse, my dog doesn't like people that are nervous around them, because that nervousness around the dog communicates distrust. So the dog goes, if you don't trust me, why should I trust you? Okay? So here, as I put her in this really vulnerable position, and I stay next to her, but I'm not pinning her down or keeping physical force on her, I'm telling her, I trust that you're not going to do anything. So then she's going in her mind, but are you going to do something? Right? So just getting her, like same thing from before where she was just in my space and we were just kind of coexisting. And then after so long, she like blew up because she became overwhelmed, you know? It's just teaching like, you can be in my space and not have to worry about like, something happening. Okay, vice versa. But if I stay here and I'm just like pressing her down like this, it's nothing but distrust. And she's like, well, this is why I don't trust you. So, I don't know if you've ever seen like those police videos where they use like a ton of force to kind of pin someone down.
Yeah.
Yep. Right, good. Yep. 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 And they do too much,
Yeah.
and the person fights back for more. It's similar. That's why it's called excessive force,
Yeah.
right? So here, even if she has another spiel or she acts up, I always keep my cool, my calmness. Yep. 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 She's stressed. You see how that was a lot easier? So that's why she's pooping now. Because last week, I think we didn't get any poop, right? But we were still operating in a realm that she was comfortable with. So as I pushed more, we're gonna get the poop again. But now she's like, okay, well I've gone this far. So if I revisit this or I expose her to something that's equally stressful, we technically shouldn't see poop. It's like before, it's just coming into her space, poop. Or coming into my space, poop. Do that a couple times, no poop. Okay, everything was no poop here, but then as soon as we went into now you're gonna give me more, poop. Okay. So, all part of the process, as usual. Questions about this so far? How was she at your bed, by the way?
Awful. She's terrible at the bed.
So this, the vet, right? You have to grab, touch, move stuff around, get in personal space. That's just stuff like this can be like, okay? So your guests obviously don't do these things. I'm pushing her as far as possible. So like if when she goes to the vet or back to the vet or whatever, you have to do a number of things all at once. You have to keep her passive as best you can. So if like you're sitting down, your veterinarian comes in, she growls, boom, 65, right
So
away.
you can bring your e-collar to the vet and they won't say anything.
That's a different thing.
Okay.
Okay. So it can be a couple of things. I talked to you guys about Doug, right? The other pet that I'm working with right now. And they saw a veterinary behaviorist, they saw a veterinarian and another trainer, and everybody just put the dog on drugs, but no one gave him any real answers. We had our first class, and at the start of the second class, she's like, hey, by the way, we had a vet visit between then and now, and he was right. She's like, it's the first time they didn't have to sedate him. And I was like, awesome. And then she's like, but everybody gave me that look, right? And now, because he has a prong collar, he has an e-collar, he's muzzled. And she's like, look guys, the drugs weren't helping. You're having us live a very unrealistic lifestyle, which is we couldn't go anywhere, we couldn't travel, because they wouldn't board their dog either. So she's like, don't give me that look if you're not going to give me answers that look.
Right.
Right? So, and they were fine. But she was like, that's the first time that I think the 3 years that they've had him, that they've not had to sedate him. Right? So, when you go to your vet, it could be they mind their business. It can be they say like, well, this is going to make your dog worse. Right? I've never had anybody get kicked out by their vet for using the collar, if that's a concern. But ultimately, like, who cares? Like, if you feel like, hey, we're making progress, you know, I wouldn't worry so much about what the vet said.
Right. No, I was just curious. Like, I've never seen anyone. I mean, I've never really seen any dog. Like, our vet we had was very like heavily busy.
You never took her.
No, you always took her. But I would never. I guess like I didn't think that. Oh, we could bring it to the vet and use it, and have it be a good experience rather than a bad experience.
They had her up to, the last they had her up, the dose of the sumatriptan, or not sumatriptan, trazodone was the 300 milligrams, and for her weight it's like 50 milligrams over what she's supposed to be. So, like, and she doesn't calm down at all taking it. She's just panicked the entire time. So giving her shots was all about, basically putting blinders on so she didn't know they were there, and me holding her down and hoping that she didn't buckle up or stick a needle in. And that does not make me feel comfortable and safe for my dog. For her safety.
So I had a client, her dog hated the vet, and they say gave him a tranquilizer, and they said they gave him enough for a rhino, and he was still bucking the dog. Going back to like the police videos, like someone's popped up on drugs, and there's a video of like 8 cops tasing one dude, and the guy's just like blowing right past 8 tasers, so drugged up, right? So the power of the mind and the body and adrenaline is very great. I had another client who they actually allowed me to go with him to bring his German Shepherd. I show up, the dog is woozy, and it's just like all over the place, drooling, like completely out of it, because he gave him like 5 pills of something. We go inside, the vet techs come in, he's still growling, the vet techs, right? They give him tranquilizer. He falls asleep, they put a towel over his head, 20 minutes later they come back to grab him, he still wakes up and he's aggressive. They gave him more tranquilizer. They leave, 20 minutes later, come back. He still acted out when we tried to pick him up. They give him more tranquilizer. They leave, come back, they pick him up. He still growled, he just didn't get up, right? And then they put him in, because they had to neuter them. So then they put him on the table and they were to do their thing. But he showed up drugged up, and they had to tranquilize him 3 more times before they were able to do anything, right? So, and me, the whole time, I'm just like, let me do my thing, like, that's why I'm here, right? So that I was there, they're able to actually tranquilize them, because without me, they wouldn't have been able to, but I was like, we can actually get more done if you just allow me to do more with what I'm supposed to, but they're their own business, right? But yes, like, I took my dogs to the vet with ER and stuff like that, just because they're trained, not that I'm in fear of anything, but this is meant to allow you to do things with her, right? Including vet visits. The next, and if your vet's cool with it, once we get far enough along, like, I don't mind going in and showing you, like, this is how we go about, like, or how you go about controlling her so they can do their thing and all that stuff. Whether or not they allow you to do it with or without drugs is their protocol, you know. But I've heard not only experience, but also heard several clients throughout the years like, yeah, my dog like, has to show up on like 10 pills before they'll even see me, you know. So, but a lot of times it doesn't work. The body overrides all the drugs. Okay. Questions?
No.
Good. So clearly this is very difficult for her. The good thing is it's not taking me a whole lot when she tries to get up and when I encounter her, she just kind of goes with it. I did the same thing with Doug. He was like a bull. Just kept flipping over and flipping over and flipping, like he was a little tight before I could actually like force him that. Like I actually use more force before I could settle and relax and I'm like, okay, you can chill. Her, yeah, she comes in like once she resets, but for the most part, once I have her in that mindset, she gives into the pressure super easily, right? So this would help make vet visits more comfortable or more easier, because that's what essentially what they're doing. But they tend to overpower, you know, sending 3 vet techs to put a dog down when they do a thing, and that's the equivalent of excessive force to a dog. It just takes understanding the psychology and also just their body makeup and how to apply pressure that will keep them under control, but also not panic them at the same time. Okay? Questions? I'll let her reset for a second. There we go. A lot of drool over here. That's okay. What's that number currently?
87.
Watch your foot. I think there might be a poop on your left foot. His left foot? Yeah, it's right there. It's on the table.
You have to wipe it down.
Yep. Yep. hear that difference?
Yeah.
Alright, so this is for now. Okay. There we go. There. You see how she's able to move more now? Move with me now more easily? Good. Little burper. Come on. Little one. Right. You see what I come here? Okay. Good. Great. Good. She's done. Excellent. Next time when you bring her, I'm gonna have you flip your setup.
Okay.
I'm gonna have you put your collar at the base of her neck, so that when she, yeah, at the bottom. So the thing what happens is when I have to pull up, because she's putting the paws on the leash,
Yeah.
is it's shifting the collar as well. So putting it at the base will help prevent that from happening. So your homework, same stuff. When good. Pause for 1 second. Just gonna good. Not even closing your mouth.
Yeah.
Good. And if you look at her posture, like she's stressed. She's venting stress, but she's more like, that wasn't that bad. Okay? As opposed to like this and breathing out that heavy.
Yeah.
You know? So do the place thing that we have planned. I start maybe 60, 65-ish.
Yeah.
I'll just be ready to turn if needed. Continue with the walking stuff. If you're feeling good, go to Home Depot, like you mentioned. Feel free to warm yourself up in the parking lot too.
Okay.
You know, don't feel like you have to just park and just go straight to Home Depot. You know, if you want to ease into it, that the parking lot, just walk around the parking lot, the front doors, where people are kind of going in and out, maybe just even standing aside as people are entering and exiting the building before like committing to going in. So if like, let's say you get to the parking lot and you're doing like the door thing and maybe it's not going very smoothly, well that's your heads up of like, okay, going in might be a bit much, so what you're gonna focus on here. And you repeat that a few times, and then maybe on the third, second visit, she's chill, and it's like, okay, now we can move in. So it's kind of like the door thing. Like I said, if it's just doorbell, dog blowing up, restrain the dog, and the guest comes in, it's just a snowball effect. Same thing with Home Depot. If you show up and it's already starting off on the wrong foot, and you just walk inside the building, you're just snowballing that situation. So feel free to go there, feel it out first, stand by the front, see how she does with people walking by or whatever. And then if you're like, this looks good, promising, you can go. Okay?
Yeah.
Anything else?
No. I think that's it.
Good.